Hello, everybody. My name is Natalia. I am a school settlement worker at North York Community House. Today, we present a first issue of Women's Health Online magazine. Each session, we will ask some questions to specialists regarding women's health and well-being. And today, we have a specialist, Doreen. She is a mental health and wellness leader at North York Community House, and we will ask some questions regarding challenges experienced by families being at home during the lockdown and COVID-19. Hello, Doreen. How are you doing today?
Hi, Natalia, and hello, everyone who's watching and listening. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm doing well, Natalia. Thank you so much for asking. I think I'm really excited to talk about this issue. I think it's a very interesting area that we need to talk more about. Especially because it's so different for so many different people, yet experiencing different challenges while most of us are working at home is becoming very common now. But before we do begin, I think it's really important to remind everyone that it's really important for us to look at our individual situations and our individual environments and family life. So things like how many people are living at home, what are the relationships of everyone living within under the same roof, what are the ages, and various other factors that will really contribute to whether or not some of these suggestions and tips today will work. So we're going to go over some suggestions and tips to help with some of the challenges. But again, I just want to set that reminder that it's important that we look at our individual situations when we do.
Thank you, Doreen. Yes, for sure. And our first question: if we don't have enough time, what are some simple techniques to help with stress?
So this is a good question, and it's actually a very common question. Stress is normal. We all experience stress in our lives, whether it is during a lockdown or not. Stress can be good and stress can be not so good. And oftentimes we feel that we don't have enough time. So one thing that I would suggest is what has worked before. I like to ask people to reflect during past experiences, because as mentioned, we've all experienced stress at some point in our lives. So what did we do and other times that helped us? And so I would welcome people to kind of think about the past and see if some of the things that they did then could work in their current stressful situation or experience. The second thing I would suggest that doesn't require a lot of time is releasing body tension. So when we do experience stress, we tend to hold a lot of that stress in our bodies. So one technique would be to move your body. And I know we hear this a lot, and oftentimes people might think that that means getting into some really hardcore exercise, which can definitely help, but it doesn't have to be to that level. I think moving your body in any way that you can and that feels comfortable for you is just as valuable. So for example, if you're in the kitchen and you're cooking dinner, while you're waiting for dinner to be cooked, maybe you can jog lightly on the spot. Maybe you can do some jumping jacks, or maybe you can just, raise your arms really high, like you want to reach the sky, and stretch some of those arms. So whatever way that you can move your body, that definitely can be helpful. Pretend shouting is another tip that can help release some stress when you don't have enough time. The reason why shouting or pretend shouting is helpful is because, again, we hold tension. We can hold some stress in our jaw area, in our jaw lines. So when we open our mouth to shout or pretend shout, it kind of stretches that area and kind of helps release some of that tension. Now, if you can shout for real, just make sure that you're in a safe, private space where other people around you are not affected by that. And if not, then you can just open your mouth as if you were about to shout, but without having any sound come out. And that can be just as helpful. And the last tip for releasing some of that body tension is a technique called progressive muscle relaxation. So an example of that is, so you can actually follow along if you are listening and watching. So again, we hold tension in different parts of our body, and another area would be our shoulders. So one way to practice progressive muscle relaxation is lift both your shoulders at the same time as high as you can, as if you want to touch your shoulders to your ears. So lift it as high as you can because you want to touch your ears, and then hold it in that position for a few seconds, and you'll start to feel some stretching in your arms and your shoulder, your neck, and maybe a little bit in your back. And then once you hold for a few seconds, release and bring your shoulders back to the relaxation stage. And then maybe do that again, repeat that 2 or 3 times in a row, hold it for a few seconds, and release back. And when you do release, that's when you're feeling that that tension kind of being removed from your body. If the shoulders doesn't work, you again, pay attention to your own physical and health, unique health needs. So don't push yourself. If you find that your shoulders are not, you can't do that with your shoulders, you can always do it with your fists. So you can just take both your fists and squeeze them really, really tight together, hold it for a few seconds, and then release. And again, you can repeat that 2 or 3 times in a row, or as many times as you need to.
Thank you, Jane. Great techniques. But our next question, what if there is conflict arising when more than one person at home wants to use certain areas of the home at the same time? How do we get organized?
So this is actually another good question, and it's actually a common challenge that I've been hearing a lot about because more people are in the home at the same time for longer periods, and depending on your environment, whether you're living in a smaller environment or a bigger environment, whether there are not enough rooms, not enough devices, not enough areas. So this can definitely pose a challenge. So what I would probably suggest, again, taking a look at your own individual situation, but trying to create a family schedule. So I'll show you on the next slide an example of what I mean by this. But creating a family schedule is creating a schedule for the different people that are in the home or under the same roof to use certain areas of the house at certain times and on certain days. So it's creating this schedule, creating this agenda, and making it very visible. You can add color to make it more appealing, and making it big enough for everyone that's in the home that can read and follow. And then just picking, for example, on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, so-and-so is going to be using the computer. And then just designating the different areas of the home and just putting it on a schedule. And then making sure that schedule is somewhere visible, so you can post it maybe on the wall at the front entrance, or you can, with a magnet, put it on the fridge, wherever most of the people can access it. And then it's also important to consider part of that schedule having shared area activities also scheduled. So maybe there's another person in the home that enjoys baking. So then that way 2 or more people can be sharing the kitchen area at the same time, but also together, doing an activity together. That can be helpful. So here's an example of a calendar that you can create. So here you'll see in the corner, we have a family, John, Anna, and Natalia, and they're color coordinated. So John wants to be blue, Anna wanted to be yellow, and Natalia wanted to be pink. So that way it's very visible, it's color coordinated, and they'll know their color, and they'll see that, you know, Natalia has the kitchen on a Tuesday the 14th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. You know, and John has the TV, for example, on a Friday evening. And then they have the family shared activity, shared area time. So family TV on a Saturday from this time. So this is just an example. You can, another activity would be actually creating the calendar together. Actually, I would suggest that, and getting everybody to put their own colors in. So this is just an example of what that would look like.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next question. We can't agree on anything at home. What should we do?
So before I begin this, I think it's really important to state that you know, it's normal not to agree all the time. We're not meant to always agree with everyone. You know, whether they're family members, friends, colleagues, or whoever it is. We're not meant to always agree. I think the most important part is how we move through disagreements, how we manage discussions. So that's the most important thing. So I'm going to be talking about some tips on how to create more successful conversations when we're disagreeing. So I'm going to focus on 3 tips. The 3 tips being I language, compromise, and then normalizing taking breaks during conversations. So what do I mean by I language? So when we're speaking, usually most people have a default tendency to use you language when they're talking about their feelings. So you made me feel, but this is not helpful. So using I language would mean saying I feel instead of you made me feel. And the reason for this is because no one has control over how we feel. People might do things or behave in certain ways that can create certain feelings for us, but they can never make us feel that feeling. And I think that's why it's really important for us to use I language and say, I feel, instead of you made me feel. And a way to do that is observe, feel, need, and request. And I'll go into more detail about this on the next screen. So this is an example of nonviolent communication technique that was developed by the late Marshall Rosenberg. And an example of that is whenever there is something that you are not okay with that involves someone else, the most practical way to communicate that would be to make an observation. So state the observation. What did you observe? Then how it made you feel by using I language, stating what you need, and then making a request. So this is an example. When you leave your dirty clothes on the floor, which is the observation, I feel frustrated or disappointed, which is the feeling, because I have a need for organization. That's the need. Would you consider putting your dirty clothes directly into the laundry basket? That's the request. So when you state it in this way, it helps the other person that you're connecting with or interacting with see it from a different perspective. And also when you're not using you language, it helps minimize any additional conflict because the other person doesn't feel attacked as if they're being blamed for it. The second tip would be practice compromising. So compromising, for those who who may have heard the term but are not quite sure what it is it's when we can come to an agreement about something that we may have disagreed on. So this is where we can find a middle ground where we can meet halfway to figure out a way that works. So some examples of compromising would be taking turns. So for example, we can try it your way this time, and next time we can try it my way. Another example of compromise would be this and that. So I'll clean the dishes if you take out the garbage. And then last but not least is both do it your own way. So an example of what that would be is I will clean the bathroom my way when it's my turn to clean it, and you can clean it your way when it's your turn to clean it. So these are some examples of how to compromise and how to find or meet halfway. And last but not least, I would really suggest normalizing taking breaks during conversations. Sometimes when we feel we need to finish the conversation, it's not helpful because it's important for us to pause sometimes and gather our thoughts. And it's okay for us to take a break. So I would definitely recommend pausing for a moment and make sure you communicate that to the person you're interacting with. So don't just walk away from the conversation. I would suggest, letting the other person know, hey, I feel like I need a break. Let's pause for a moment. And then part of that that's really important is if you are the person who decided to take a break, make sure you schedule a time to come back to the conversation, and then make sure you actually do come back. So for example, you can say something like, hey, I'd love to take a break right now. Can we come back in an hour to this conversation? And then taking the next steps from that, but making sure that you do come back.
Excellent tips, Doreen, thank you. And our last question. Is it okay for mothers to feel exhausted? Why do I feel guilty?
Yes, so the short answer to this is yes, absolutely. It's okay for mothers to feel exhausted. It's normal, it's allowed. And I think it's really important to remember that you are more, or mothers are more than just one part. You are more than just a mother. You are more than just that one identity. There's more to you that makes you who you are. You're human, and as humans, we have needs, and we're allowed to have those needs. So, feeling exhausted is allowed, it's normal. It's important also to remember that there's a saying that goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I like that saying because what that means is that, if you keep giving to others, but you are not giving to yourself, then eventually you're going to run out. You're going to run out of energy. You're going to run out of patience. You're going to run out of giving. So it's really important that you fill your own cup. You give yourself also what you need, whether that's time, breaks, patience, whatever it is that you need to refill that cup. So make sure that that's something that you can try and practice to do. Also, reminding yourself of all of the good you do and are. I know it's very easy for us to kind of focus on the stuff that we feel like we're not doing enough or are not good enough at. But I think it's really important that we remind ourselves of all the good that we are and all the good that we do as well. A way that you can do that is by stating or telling yourself, I am affirmations. So some examples of what these are, repeating to yourself, I am enough, I am worthy, I am lovable, I am learning, I am growing, I am allowed to make mistakes, I am allowed to want better for myself, I am beautiful, I am amazing, because you are all of this. And sometimes remembering this is not easy. So ways that you can help yourself remember them is maybe writing some of these on sticky notes and maybe putting them on the mirrors in the washroom, or maybe in the kitchen on the kitchen cupboards, or maybe even just typing it up on your phone and putting it as a screensaver, whatever it is that you can do to remind yourself of all the good that you do and all the good that you are.
Excellent, Doreen. You completely answered our questions, but if there is any other questions regarding these topics, our audience always can ask these questions to you. You can see your email on the screen. If you have any other questions to any other specialist, you also see my email. And if, for example, you would like to review these materials or go through with other family members, you always can find these materials at our website, www.niche.ca. And once again, Doreen, I would like to say big thank you for your time, for your attention to our questions, and for great explanation how we can survive these non-easy times. Thank you very much for being with us. See you next session. Bye.
Thank you.